So we have a procedure for setting up the counter so that you get your cutting in the correct place. Basically what we need to do initially is do a manual cut. So to do this we go into the manual operations screen and then we do a manual cycle. So I'm just going to do one of those now. So I'm going to stop it there, and then what we need to do is look at the number. This is 173 it ends in. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. So what we have to do is we have the formula, which I'll take you through now. So we take the total count, which in this case is 1,000 because we're putting 1,000 labels onto the roll. So put that into the calculator, and then I'm going to remove from that the number of that last label that we took off. So 1,000 minus 173 is 827. Then we add 1, and then we add that to the current count, which is 13. So that takes me to 841. Now if I touch the count now, I can change that and put that to 841. So it's the total count. The total count is this value here, which is how many labels you want on a roll, minus the number on the last label that you've got, which on this one is 173. Then you add 1, and then add that to the count that was on the screen at the point you stopped. So we're now at 841, so we'll run this So now, I don't know if you can see with the camera, but that one's on 6,000. So that starts at 6,000, and then that's 1599, 15999, and this one is 0001. So that's label number 1, and then the end of the roll will finish it with the label number 1,000. So I'm just going to do the index. So we've now done another 1,000, and if you look, I don't know if you can see, but that's on the 000, and this last one here is number 1. And we have some special software in here, so that if the label sensor does get a double blip or something goes wrong and it's like missed one or something like that, it's comparing the label count to the actual, it's comparing the label count to the length count. So if it isn't expecting, if it sees too many label counts for the length it's expecting the label to be, it will just correct it. It will basically take out any false triggers of the sensor. We'll just finish that one up, and then I just want to go through a couple bits more in the counters. So what I want to go through now is if we go into the counter setup. In the count setup we have the total count, which is 1,000 labels in this case, but we have down here as well the cutter size. We can only alter this when we're actually emergency stop, so I need to press the red button and then that will alter. We also have this in the servo setup, but basically to do the checking to see whether the labels are getting a false trigger, we need to know the length of the label. And it works this out by you put in the cutter size, so this is in teeth, so it's a 96 tooth cutter, which is 12 inches repeat, and then it's how many labels there are for the cutter repeat. So there are 10 labels around the cutter basically, so one full revolution of the cutter is 10 labels. So we need to input that information for the count verification software to work, basically. The other, well, we've got various other modes we can count in. We can count in meters or inches, but obviously for the sequential numbering that wouldn't work. We need to be counting in either labels. The only other thing we can count in is repeats. And if we count in repeats, it's counting the marks from the registration sensor, which is this sensor down the centre of the machine. So it's basically counting every repeat mark that it sees down here on the registration sensor. So yeah, you see the square mark there, it's counting those. So those are the different modes of count, if you like. If you get too many blips or too many, just get rid of that screen if I go back to that. If we get too many blips on the sensor, so the software is picking up that there's a lot of problems going on here, we're getting a lot of false triggers. Could be down to the sensitivity of the label sensor, and it will actually come up on the main screen. It'll come up with a warning message saying it'll stop the machine and say there's a problem, and then you'll have to reset the error. The count shouldn't still go out, so the count should still be correct, but it's just kind of warning you that, look, this sensor isn't counting as it should be, you need to check it out and maybe adjust the sensitivity of the sensor. So that's basically how that software and that procedure works for getting your count where it should be. So I hope you found that useful.